Hello everyone. Welcome to my YouTube magazine, The Spiritual Citizen. My today's guest is Major General Lakhwinder Singh. Introducing him is genuinely a daunting task for me. I met him around a decade back. His charming nature, his sense of humor, his intelligence, his love for Urdu poetry are all respect worthy. Major General Lakhwinder Singh was commanding 8th Mountain Artillery Brigade during the Kargil War. His innovative strategy played a key role in leading country to victory in this war. He believes in leading his men from front. He is a recipient of many awards and medals. He is featured in History TV documentary made on Kargil War. He is a man with a will of steel and a heart of gold. उनके लिए ये कहना मुनासिब होगा कि जिन्हें अकेले चलने के हौसले होते हैं, एक दिन उन्हीं के पीछे काफिले होते हैं. Good morning, General Saab, and welcome to The Spiritual Citizen. You know, my
Good morning.
favorite Good morning. My favorite poet, Maya Angelou, has said that courage is a necessary virtue. And without courage, we cannot practice any other virtue consistently. And you are a man of courage. Please tell us what motivated you to join the Indian Army. And especially, what was your parents' reaction when you told them about your decision?
Interesting question. In the post-independence era, career in armed forces were a priority and a preferred option. It was considered noble, adventurous, and patriotic profession. The attendant pomp and show and the glitter added to the charisma of being an army officer. In my case, both my grandfathers and my father were in the army. Being a third generation army brat, I was naturally drawn to the uniform. Surprisingly, one never thought of any other career but the army.
I mean, like third generation is quite a lot. So, what was your training experience as a young cadet? And for how many years you served the Indian Army?
I joined the National Defense Academy known as NDA Khadapasla near Pune in 1964 at an age of 15 and a half years. NDA is one of the finest institutions in the world to provide pre-commissioned training for all wings of the armed forces, Army, Navy, and Air Force. It hones and toughens you for a 3-year period, converts a raw youngster to a fine specimen ready to take up cudgels of the chosen service. Life in academy was tough and challenging. The ragging was a part of unwritten syllabi accepted both by the giver and the recipient with no malice. The daily curricula was very exerting. By end of the day, one was totally exhausted. It was not an uncommon sight to see some cadets literally sleeping and walking while on outdoor exercise at night. My first military lesson in the academy came from a scorpion bite. I recall during one of our camps, the first in the series, called Camp Greenhorn, while digging trenches, I suffered a scorpion bite. My colleagues helped me to walk up to the accompanying medical authority, who attended to me very brusquely and sent me off to the camp to complete my assignment. This was my first lesson in soldiering. No mollycoddling or sympathies in field when the mission was due and pending. It stood me a good stead. One was mentally conditioned and prepared to face adversity and accept challenges as they came. At the end of 3 years, you're parceled off to Indian Military Academy Dehradun, known as IMA, for another year of training in specific field of army. At 19 and a half, in the December of 1967, came my most cherished moment. I was commissioned in the army as a second lieutenant to join the regiment of artillery. For the next 40 years, my destiny was linked to the olive greens. I enjoyed the ups and downs of service life, serving in some of the most challenging areas, as also enjoying the comforts and glitter of peace stations, making ourselves equally comfortable in tents and flagstaff houses. It was a memorable journey.
How important discipline is in your life and now at this point of time? And what did you learn about your own self as a human being while being a military man?
So I'll answer this in two parts. The first, the discipline, and second, what I learned myself. Uh, the first, Rashna, I must tell you, discipline trait is the bedrock of soldiering. Not surprisingly, the first step in training academy is to infuse you with discipline and obedience. One is put through rigorous drill and physical training, the rudimentary obedience lessons, march forward, turn left, turn right, halt, salute, etc., till it becomes a part of your system to obey instantly. There's no time to think, you just obey. With time, this gets imbibed in every aspect of your life. To discipline, a soldier learns to control fear, pain, anguish, grief, and joy. In the post retirement years, the imbibed discipline also helps. It helps you regulate your life, accept the plus and minuses as they come with equanimity. The ultimate personal quality expected in a soldier in the lines of Iqbal Saab. खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. So let me also come to the second part of your question, which you want to know.
Yes.
What did I learn as a military man? During the service, I realized that the army man was a different stock. The safety, honor, and welfare of your country come first, always and every time. The honor, welfare, and comfort of the men you command come next. Your own ease, comfort, and safety come last, always and every time. Once you imbibe these qualities, you become a truly evolved military leader. You learn to be resilient in failure and composed in success. You also learn the value of teamwork, and in doing so, accept the credit of success always goes to a team and the blame of failure to a team leader. It is this ethos that enables an officer to lead his men to war without fear or reservation to achieve the impossible.
You know, sir, it is said that history is written by victors. And you have been a victor at least in two wars I know about. And you have been a recipient of many awards and medals. So, what are the awards and which specifically you value most?
So, Rachna, I must tell you that every award is important to army man. Medals and awards are pride of a soldier. The number of medals and awards on your uniform, which you wear close to your heart, signify your participation in different operational situations. My first experience in battle came very early in my life. I was a young captain with about 4 years service in 1971 when India and Pakistan went to war. My unit, 42 Field Regiment, was deployed to fight on the Western Front in Dera Baba Nanak sector, also called the DBN sector, Punjab, as part of 86th Infantry Brigade. The task of the brigade was to clear the DBN Bulge, cross the Ravi River, and head for the depth areas. By the first night of the next day, we had successfully captured the objective. I was recommended for the award of Veer Chakra, but Rachna, my biggest award was that we had completed our mission successfully and my team was alive against much odds. Destiny ensured my survival to fight another day. You said when I said that destiny ensured my survival to fight another day,
Yes.
so more than 2 decades back, in May of 1999, the country was facing an adverse situation in Kargil.
Yes.
The Pakistan army had taken us by surprise and in an audacious move intruded into our side of the line of control to occupy the winter vacated posts in Moscow, Daras, Kargil, and Batalik areas. By the time we learned of these intuitions and reacted, they were well settled in position of advantage. Of the entire front, the most crucial sector was Daras Kargil, where the National Highway 1A road Srinagar Leh, the only road link to Leh from Srinagar, ran under their noses. The Indian Army, assuming that these are Mujahideens, launched hurriedly assembled troops to evict them from Tiger Hill, the most dominating feature in the show window, and Tololing, closest enemy position to National Highway 1. These were unfortunately dismal failures with very heavy casualties. By now we discovered that the intruders were not Mujahideens but regular NLI troops, Northern Light Infantry troops. They are as good as regular troops in the garb of Mujahideens. At this stage, 8th Mountain Division was shifted from Kashmir Valley to Daras sector to restore the situation. I was part of the force commanding an artillery brigade. The enemy was in occupation of heights between 11,000 feet to 16,000 feet. What was topography to understand what happened there? Ladakh lies in the shadow of great Himalayan ranges. It is dry, bereft of moisture. There is no foliage. The slopes are steep and bare, difficult to negotiate. Daras is the second coldest inhabited place in the world where temperature dips down to minus 60 degrees Celsius in winters. Wind conditions are harsh and sun strong enough to burn you. In the high altitude area, which is normally taken at 9,000 feet above, the oxygen content reduces with elevation, cutting down one's efficiency to a great degree. The enemy had an overbearing advantage over us. He could pick and choose the ascending force, the assaulting infantry, and cause casualties even by rolling stones. The task to evict the enemy from these heights looked ominous, and yet it had to be done. The infantry soldiers were brave as ever, full of courage, motivated to have a go at it. In the earlier attempts, they had failed for different reasons, and one of them was they could not close up to the enemy to fight them. So our biggest question was, if they could not do, how will the fresh troops do? How to reach the infantry close to enemy was an issue which vexed us all. It's a cliche that if you want to win a war, you have to think out of the box. We experimented with Bofors in direct firing role over long ranges. It was a great success. We then decided to use 100 guns or more on the objective, incorporating the direct firing guns in the fire plan. The integrated concept was able to deliver an impact equivalent of a mini nuke on the object to pulverize the enemy and put fear of God in him. The guns, because of our concept, continued to engage the objective for as long as the infantry wanted. Normally when you have artillery fire, because of the dispersion of artillery fire, you lift your artillery fire 300 to 400 meters before the infantry reaches the top, so that you don't avoid your own casualties. But in this case, the guns continued to engage the objective for as long as the infantry wanted, sometimes as close as 50 meters to the enemy, or till the infantry told us to stop firing. With this concept, what was the advantage? The infantry and artillery were operating in perfect synergy. So much so, the infantry had started using Bofors gun as section weapon. The Pakistan army was so scared and taken back by this onslaught that they were often intercepted on radio network, "Hame bachao, hamare par कहर बरस रहा hai. Save us, the hell is falling on us." The firepower concept turned the tide in Kargil. The first objective then was Tololing, which was nearest enemy position to National Highway 1 and on the easternmost fringe of the divisional area of responsibility. The attack on Toroling was launched on 12 June, and by 13 morning, Toroling was in our hands. The first good news for the army for the last 2 months. The nation was jubilant. The tide was turning. From now on, there was no looking back. The division ran through the objectives from east to west: Tololing, 0.5140, Black Rock area, and famous Tiger Hill. Tiger Hill, with its majestic demeanor, stood tall above the other features and became a symbol of strength and prestige both for India and Pakistan. For Pakistan to retain it and for India to capture it. The battle for Tiger Hill was expected to be fierce, but fortunately, it turned out differently. The concentrated and accurate artillery fire pulverized the enemy to submission. On the morning of 4th July, the Tiger Hill was in our hands. The army headquarters informed about this, and they took time to believe this. They couldn't register that this could be taken so easy. The GOC, while leaving the command post, remarked to me, "Lakhwinder, you have done it again." The infantry walked slung arms to Tiger Hill. Adjoining Tiger Hill was another feature, tactically the most dominating hilltop. It is called 0.4875, the Gun Hill. It was the last bastion of Pakistan, and for them to do or die situation, smarting under the fusillade of artillery, the Gun Hill was captured by 79 Infantry Brigade the next day by 5th July. Soon after this, the enemy started withdrawing. The artillery was able to reverse the situation and set a stage for victory in the highest battlefield in the world. Not only it quickened the operation, but also geometrically reduced own casualties and inflicted heavy casualties on the enemy. Artillery contribution in Kargil has been acknowledged nationally and internationally. The Americans, after their first offensive against Taliban and their failure in Shakot Valley in early March 2002, were at a loss how to clear Taliban from the positions. That was akin to high altitude area. They adopted our concept to successfully defeat the Taliban in the second offensive in October 2002. Now, this stands recorded in the thesis written by Captain P. Marcus, US Naval War College. I was awarded YSM for my contribution to the success in Kargil. But my biggest medal and honor was the acknowledgement by the contemporaries, to quote, Maj Gen Lakhwinder Singh, one of the most innovative officers of the Indian Army, and but for Singh's batteries, infantry could have never reached those heights. I had unknowingly become an important part of the military history. That's great for me.
Well, I guess that's not unknowingly. You did your bit and you did it very well. So, just out of curiosity, I would like to know what was your first day like when you were deployed on the war zone?
You see, I had served in this area earlier. And on the 1st of June, I was airlifted on a helicopter to reach Daras area. I had seen those heights. And those heights looked so ominous when looked at the base and the height, that how will you reach this top? I'd heard of the failures. I had known how difficult it is to operate in this altitude with thin air. I had known the enemy on top is so powerful that it is almost impossible to take them. I was all the time thinking that how will we recapture these heights? So I was very apprehensive and very worried that we should not fail. So the first day when we went there, we were briefed, we learned of what was happening, and from the first day onwards, my mind started working as to how can we do something which is out of the box and make sure the infantry suffers least casualties. You know, Rachana, in the altitude area, in attack operations, when you attack a high feature like this, the casualty ratio of the enemy of the defender to the attacker is 1 is to 6 or 7. That means if the defender suffered 1 casualties, the attacker suffered 7 casualties. But surprisingly, what we did, it reversed the ratio. We suffered 500 casualties and we suffered 700 casualties. It was it was a great thing to see that our soldiers were able to capture objectives with firepower with least amount of casualties. So this thought process had carried on since then, and it did culminate into fruitful results.
Wow, this is amazing. And sir, it has been said by a particular शायर that गिरते हैं शहसवार ही मैदान जंग में, वो तिफल क्या गिरेगा जो घुटनों के बल चले.
बहुत खूब.
So, yes. So, when you are in the war zone, obviously you are seeing a lot of casualties. There's grief and there is also joy. And lot of your colleagues and everyone, everybody is in a certain kind of emotional and psychological turmoil at that point of time. So, as a commander, how do you handle that situation?
Fear and grief, Rachana, are a state of mind. Every soldier under adverse conditions goes through these stresses in different degrees, some more, some less. The strength to overcome these stresses stems from unit's cohesion. A unit is a battalion or regiment, is cohesion, bonding, kinship, and pride. Unit is like a family where you learn to live and fight and die together. You are emotionally attached to each other for a cause. The first day in battle is the most crucial, when the fear of unknown and apprehension are fresh and sometimes uncontrolled. With each passing day, the discipline, the training, the camaraderie, the faith in God, faith in self and leader allows you to overcome these stresses. As far as grief is concerned, in war, there is no time for grieving. The grief is so strong when you see your own own buddies as casualties and dead and wounded. But the impending mission and the honor of the unit is far greater. It spurs you onto a different level. You contain grief and move ahead with the task. At higher level, one is a little removed from these emotions, not unconcerned. He is removed but not unconcerned. He is very concerned and is more involved in the mission in hand. Commanders are trained in the course of the career to face such situations with equanimity and not allow their mind to be clouded by adversities. Self-discipline and organizational values play a major part in dealing with such stresses. Commanders cannot afford to show their emotions. They are trained to have the conviction, हमको मिटा सके ये जमाने में दम नहीं, हमसे जमाना खुद है, जमाने से हम नहीं.
Sir, peace is something which always brings a smile to our face. And war is something which always puts us in a zone of being very concerned about a lot of things. So, in your opinion, what do you think is more important in today's day and time? War or peace?
Peace is always the preferred option. As you correctly opened a sentence, peace is the need of a day. War is a crime against humanity. More often than not, it serves no purpose. We have seen the record of world wars. At the end of a day, they really have served no purpose. In the existing global environment, war has the potential to escalate from conventional war to employment of weapons of mass destruction. The war itself has many mutants. The unannounced biological war, economic war, cyber war, etc., which may not be open conflict. but have the potential to be as destructive as open war. These are frightening prospects and need to be addressed globally for peace to prevail. War causes destruction and untold miseries, whereas peace can bring about prosperity and human development. The age old dictum is true even today. If you want peace, be prepared for war. It stands good today even.
Spoken about how a military man is trained to go through grief, and the battalion has each other's back. And I know your wife Sherry also from a very long time. Has almost been like a rock of Gibraltar in your life as an army wife. So please tell me two things. Firstly, contribution of army wives in a warrior's life, and specifically Sherry's contribution.
That's the concept of army is very clear. It is clear that husband wife are a team and part of the army organization. If you see any life of army officer, army jawan, it is the wives who bring up the children, run the houses, run families, have courage to face difficulties, and the husband are mostly away on the border areas and away from children. So army wife is the one which instills in them traditional values of war and tells them not to worry of home front and please fight your battles. They are always worried that one fine day bad news will come, and they are not prepared for it, but they keep praying, I hope this bad news doesn't come. So a wife is such a, as you said, rock of Gibraltar. She's a solid backbone in army officers, army jawans, army JSU's life, because they are the one who spur these people on to fight battle and fight for the watan. As far as Sherry is concerned, हम तो कुछ भी नहीं थे साहब, Sherry ने बना दिया. You know, as Sherry is concerned, that Sherry actually I have in my most part of my life, I've been on the borders, and for very few years in peace stations. So the credit of rearing the family, educating children, putting them on a strong footing, and making sure the family life does not affect my attention when I'm fighting a war or on the borders, it goes to Sherry. Sherry is been so helpful and so strong that when I went to war, my father was not well. He was a bedridden patient. And Sherry told me, you don't worry about anything, you please go and fight the war and see that you win the war. So Sherry is a great contributor.
Indeed, it takes a very strong woman to be a wife to a warrior. I totally agree with you and I understand that. So let's come down to certain lighter questions now. So what keeps you occupied these days and how do you de-stress yourself?
So during the fag end of my career, I had been reading about the growing need for homeland security. Hence decided to delve in that field. In my service years, I had to deal with human resources, management and security. I presumed it would be easy for me to run the business in civil. I was wrong. Today, we expanded our scope to include other ventures in our business. It keeps me going mentally, physically, and financially.
Okay. So, you have three beautiful grandchildren. What is it you have learned from the little babies?
Well, we have three grandchildren. Fortunately, we all live together in the same compound and enjoy playing and indulging them. Their innocence takes us back to our days of carefree life. Grandchildren today are sharp beyond their years. They are quick to learn and ask some very searching questions. A smile from them, and surprisingly, their deep concern for us fills a cup of joy and happiness.
So, do you remember I was asking you that what are the qualities of an army man which a civilian should imbibe in them so that, even their quality of life becomes better? So, I think we switched to some other question at that point of time. So, would you please like to answer that again to us?
The first is a discipline. This is the foundation of human development. Disciplined people can mold one's mind and body to form a useful member of civil society. The second is being a nationalist. One has to start feeling you are an Indian first, and then Punjabi, Bengali, Tamilian, Keralite, etc., etc. This will produce pride and national fervor. The third is compassion towards fellow beings. And last but not the least, be secular in thinking and deed. So if we can imbibe these qualities, which will take a long time, but worth trying, you will have a different India.
And we all want a different India, don't we?
Yes.
So, sir, I know that you're very fond of playing golf and you're also very fond of music. So, how important do you think are hobbies in a person's life?
Music, Rachna, I was not always fond of it. Had little time for fine arts when I was a young officer, and I rarely laughed in my early years. And then I got married to a very beautiful young girl, Sherry, who would laugh abundantly and be one with the music. I was smitten by her. हम तो फना हो गए उसकी आंखें देखकर, ना जाने वो आईना कैसे देखती होंगी. So there was choice. There was little choice. She was music in herself. She taught me to enjoy music, and slowly I got hooked to music and then Shari. I still enjoy playing golf. It's a difficult to master golf. It gives you some highs and more lows. A simple game of swing, but difficult to tame. Reading was my third love and continues to be so. I still pursue it. Today I enjoy music because I find there's life in it. There is a meaning in it. There's a purpose in it. So music is a way of life which I'm happy that I imbibed this quality from my wife.
Like, this is just an offhand question which is coming to my mind, that you are a very disciplined person, and I guess all sports need a certain kind of discipline. So, was it because of this you were drawn to golf, or was there any other reason?
No, I played many games when I was young, and I was very keen sportsman, not very high standard sportsman. So I was physically good and tough. But as the age grows, changes, we do want to come to some game which are not so taxing and not so straining. So that's how I started learning golf. And it looked so simple. The ball is stationary, the man is stationary, the people around are gentlemen, nobody disturbs you, and yet you can't hit the ball in the right direction. So it's amazing that so simple and so difficult. I think it's like a charming woman to understand golf.
But sir, you are a gunner. So why was hitting a small ball taking some time for you?
You're used to big balls. It's a small ball.
That answer I agree to completely. And, and now coming to my last question. What advice would you give to youngsters who want to join the Indian Army, and also in the same breath, what advice to your peers who want to hang their boots before time?
It's a good question. I do get a chance to talk to many youngsters.
Yes.
While addressing them during seminars and visits. They appear very motivated to join the services and often ask an easy way to be part of armed forces. My first reaction to their queries are, there is no easy way to join the services and then sustain yourself in the organization. The selection is deep and tough. The percentage of intake into the training academies is lower than most of the competitive exams. So work hard if you want to join the services. And my peers, on the bracket of superannuation. I urge them to continue the service for as long as they can and enjoy the most beautiful part of their life. I always tell them, you'll always remember the journey with nostalgia. अनोखा है तेरी याद का सिलसिला, कभी एक पल, कभी पल पल, तो कभी हर पल ये फौज याद आती है. While still in uniform, towards the latter half of the service, I tell them, do plan for the post superannuation innings. These days, Army provides study leave to gain expertise in the field of interest, so make good use of it. It is true that one day you will hang your boots. Then what? You're still young, talented, and have many years of life ahead.
And thank you very much for trusting me with this interview. And what I have learned from you today is that duty before self is something which you genuinely practice. You are brave and you are a very interesting man. To me, you're almost legendary and like a national treasure. I wish, I get to see more of you so that I learn more from you. Thank you once again very much.
To end my today's conversation with you, a charming young girl like you, I would end with a Sufiana couplet.
Please do. My ears are all open.
अपनी इबादत खुद ही कर लूं तो क्या बुरा, मैं अपनी इबादत खुद ही कर लूं तो क्या बुरा, किसी फकीर से सुना था मुझ में भी खुदा रहता है.
क्या बात है साहब.